Boom, baby. We are live. Welcome to Interview with Man episode number 495. This is a good one. I'm joined by my good friend here, Paul from apexmindset.net. And we're working our way towards the .com. But morning, man. How are you? Thanks for coming here.
I'm doing good, man. Doing really good. Glad to be here as always.
Yes, I'm honored to have you here. I gotta say, guys, um having Paul on the show today is really just I really just want to showcase the this man and his skills and his intelligence because I really think that he has a unique set of skills that he brings to the table that a lot of men need. Because we know we talk about here the core four money muscles game frame, right? But the thing is we want to address like how the superficial stuff that everybody seems to be striving for: six-pack abs, six-figure salary, 6-inch dick, all of these like kind of superficial metrics. How if you don't really get your core you sorted out and your core person, your inner game sorted out, that eventually things are going to come down crashing in a very not cool way. Don't forget, next week we have the enrollment for the Inner Game Healing Summit, which Paul will be a primary speaker of as well. Go to innergamehealing.com, put your best email address in right here, and then click get on the waiting list, and your position will be locked and loaded. On day 3, Paul is a speaker, and he will be talking about creating your new core identity. You're not going to want to miss out on this. I'm telling you. If you want to take a look at the screen right here, you will see the schedule for the speaking event. So this is it right here. This is the Inner Game Healing schedule. And on March 1st, it will be myself and Ryan from innermasculine.com. Identifying your subconscious trauma. This is going to be like a 3-hour presentation. I just got confirmation on that. March 2nd, hypnosis for men, talking about limiting beliefs. And then March 3rd, Paul, our guest today, Apex Mindset, creating your new healthy identity. March 4th, masculine journey, enhancing your mental state and changing your self-talk. And then March 5th, red pill Thor, emotional durability. All of these will be recorded and they will be live. You will be interactive. There will be a chat as well as a Q&A section after that you can ask all of your questions. So go to innergamehealing.com, get on the waiting list today. Paul, it's been one hell of a journey, man. Huh?
Yes, it has been. Yes, it has been.
How did we even start talking? Was it November or was it no? I mean, you came through the Hot Dude Con Miami in the summer, yeah?
Yeah, it was the summertime. We had a really good one-to-one face-to-face interaction. We're just talking about different things that guys are dealing with, and you were having like just kind of a lot of realizations too and questions about you're always evolving your business. That's one thing that makes you so good at what you do, is that you're always getting better, always changing, always evolving. And you were kind of looking at this stuff. You were noticing something that I've been promoting for a while, but a lot of guys surprisingly don't notice this, which is that a lot of these guys that are trying to get better with women, whether it's through pickup or game skills or through the red pill spaces or manosphere, whatever you want to call it, they're actually pretty broken inside. There's things that are wrong on the inside, and they're going for externalities to try to be happy. But as you start counseling with these guys and talking to these guys one-on-one and through your courses, you're realizing, man, these guys they're really got a lot going on inside of them that's kind of fucked up, or effed up. And so what do we do about this? Like, how do we address this stuff? And these are some of the things we got to talking about back then. I mean, we've known each other for a while before that, but that's when we really got into some stuff. And I'm really excited and glad that you're moving in this direction as well, where you include this as part of what you're doing, because I think it's so critical and so important, and it's what's missing. It really is.
And when you say that, what is missing? What is this critical component that we seem to be glossing over largely in the red pill and manosphere space? And if not, this is probably the most important. No, this is not. This is the most important part of it all.
Yeah. Well, it's basic your mental fitness and your mental stability and knowing who you truly are and what you're made out of. And knowing that outside of the programming or conditioning that you've been experiencing since you were, a child,
Mm.
it's being able to separate those things. The true red pilling isn't just saying, okay, female nature is a certain way. It's seeing that your nature and for what it is. What is your nature? Who are you?
Right.
What makes you tick? And what is that that's separate from the defenses that you are putting up and that you're doing to protect yourself from harm? And that's
Right.
another thing too. We talk about trauma, and some of our hypnotherapists are good at getting into the unconscious and past experiences and unraveling some of the toxic stuff and toxic shame and trauma issues. Well, what is that though? That creates bad experiences, create defense mechanisms that we put out into the world, and it prevents our true selves from really being able to shine, so to speak, and for us to even see it or know it. And so people don't even know who they are. I
Yeah.
think that the real red pilling is understanding that everybody is influenced, everybody is being programmed, including you. And when you know that, then it changes sort of how you think about things.
Yeah.
You understand that, wait a second here. I have to now control as best as I can the programming and influences that are happening to me, choose what I'm accepting to take in and how I'm looking at those things, and then being the programmer or the influencer on other people. When you understand that exchange, that's true frame right
Mm.
there. That's what actual frame is in your life, not just in your relationship, is knowing that you're the influencer, but also being influenced, accepting, okay, I'm being influenced. Can't help it. That's what happens. So
Mhm.
now I have to choose how I let those influences affect me,
Mhm.
and this gets into, okay, the people that we hang around with, the type of content that we allow ourselves to digest, the type of mentors we choose, people we look up to. All of those things can play that role as to how I'm controlling the influence that's happening to me. And
Right.
then those things influence me both consciously as well as unconscious in ways I'm not even aware.
Right.
And then that allows me to get what I want or do what I want. But knowing who you are, separate of all of those things,
Mhm.
it's a real challenge. People don't know it. You ask your average guy or your average client, well, who are you?
Mhm.
Who describe, say, who do you really know who you are? Who are you?
Mhm.
Struggle. It's a challenge. You can't put it into words,
Yeah.
you know? And so if you don't know who you are, how are you supposed to hold frame? How do you know if the goal you're going for makes any sense at all?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's true. And I because for me, I think that, the purpose of taking the red pill is to do what you wanna do, in my
Right.
personal opinion. Obviously, the female dynamics, I understand, yeah, all the shit
Mhm.
is hypergamy, blah, 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 right?
Right.
But after you take the red pill, it's to do what you wanna do, right? For example, I see guys, like, they like to criticize, and say, like, "Oh, oh, he's dating this chick, and she's not, like, a perfect 9 out of 10, and so, like, he must be beta male." It's like, no, if that guy took the red pill and he chooses to date that girl, and that girl makes him happy, and that's truly what he wants, he is living out the fundamentals of taking the red pill. He's living exactly what he wants to do. He's living his life, you know? And that's really, really important, and I think a lot of guys need to have the confidence to be themselves, but in the right way, not the wrong way. For example,
Yeah.
there's this guy in my
I know
community.
what you mean.
There's a guy in my community, and I use this as a funny example, right? And it was 2019, 2020, and he just liked to have his asshole licked, right? And he felt ashamed about it. And we were just like, dude, if that is your thing and you
Hey.
want these girls to do it, live your life, bro. Just tell him, "Lick my ass." And then he went
Right.
through, he's like, "Got all these bitches licking my ass now. I'm so happy."
Oh
As
my
which
god.
it's like as crass as the example it is, you know what I mean? But
Sure.
that's the truth, and
Mhm.
I think guys need to, like I also think something that, this is kinda not necessarily tied to the eating game stuff, but I think it's I want to talk about it because it's important to you as well.
Yeah.
I think you're really, really, really good at relationship coaching, and I think a lot of guys automatically assume in the red pill space, guy who's in a relationship equals beta equals inevitable doom and failure of this relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's that's the automatic assumption. It's that they have different assumptions. It's interesting. If they're not, but a lot of these things they're all illusions. They're illusionary. We don't know, like, look at a guy like the example of Leonardo DiCaprio. Everyone uses that one, right? He's just recycling women by the time they hit 25, and he
Right.
rinses and repeats again, right? Which, hey man, maybe the guy is actually really happy doing that, and that's what he wants to do. But maybe he's not, though. And now that you're at a pretty elite level in terms of your money, your business, and you interact with a lot of elite people. And
Right.
I have had the pleasure of being able to do the same just with what I do. I've had people hire me for a consult, and I'm standing there looking at the other end of the screen going, okay, I know who this guy is.
Mhm.
All right, well, I guess we're gonna do it. It's weird, people hear about you, and so you get the opportunity to do that, and you realize how much of a subjective nature there is to how we perceive the world.
Mm.
Uh, the average guy who can't get women looks at Leonardo DiCaprio as maybe living his best life, and maybe Leonardo DiCaprio looks at it that way as well, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's looking for that ride or die that'll be by his side, that he could trust with parts of his life and parts of his emotion into him being 85 years old.
Mm.
And just maybe his desire for hot women, which we all have the desire, and that ability to get it and a status to be able to get it without having really to improve his game at all. Like he doesn't have to have game. He just shows up, right?
Right.
Maybe that's causing him to get into these relationships, the 21-year-olds who are not capable of
Mm.
being a long-term partner. And he ends up just getting rid of it. And maybe he's not happy. Like, we don't actually know. I'm just putting that scenario out because I see stuff like that all the time. I've coached through things with guys who get women. They learn pickup skills and they get their money muscles and their game together. And they're like, dude, I don't know. I can't seem to pick. Like, I just in it with this crazy chick for the last 6 months and this emotional roller coaster, and I don't know what to do with myself. This
Mm.
guy could have whatever he wants,
Yeah.
and he's stuck and he's confused. And so this is why, like, what you think you want sometimes isn't what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Um, Luca is checking in from Croatia. Says Paul's Alpha Mindset course is a great foundation for anyone starting their red pill journey. I agree; it has amazing value. Thank you both for your work. Greeting from Croatia. Let's pull back a little bit here. Avid YouTuber has a great question, or Avid Tuber. What's Apex's background? So I think people should know about your background,
Yeah.
your military expertise and the psychological background, because people just think of you as like the guy on Rule Zero who looks like Brock Lesnar, which goes way more deeper
That's
than that.
way more exciting than my background. So I I was graduated whatever undergrad and worked in business and was going for a doctorate in psychology. So I was in grad school for a bit, and then I joined the military and went down the military road, and I never looked back into finishing that doctorate. I saw that the psychological APA boundaries were kind of flawed and broken even
Mm,
back then. Now, I'm
mm,
not slamming on licensed therapists, licensed psychologists, or counselors, for example. It's hit or miss. There's some that are very good and skilled in certain areas. Like, I've talked to counselors who are really skilled at dealing with infidelity, for example, or really skilled at dealing with an anxiety disorder or something like that. But it tends to go like that, though. There's so much in terms of human complexities that it's not a catch-all. Just because you have a doctorate in something, that doesn't mean you know everything, right? And unfortunately, it's a very lazy industry, and I could get into that another time, but there's a lot more people with those credentials who aren't good at what they're doing. And then I was looking at what did I want to do with something like that. And I wanted to work with peak performance, and I wanted to work with relationship dynamics. And they can't even agree that men and women are different in these circles. So I mean, in regular like psychology, you go through academia, get your master's degree in psychology or your doctorate. They don't even fully agree that there are different like genders in that sense, and that in this that there are differences in how the brain is evolved between men and women. That's no question of that in biology. There's no question of that even in the evolutionary psychology. But for some reason, family therapists that are dealing with couples can't agree on that, and they have this very flawed view of how men and women should be interacting with each other. And that's why counseling is usually a big failure when people go to it for personal reasons or for relationship stuff. Now, we get into research, right? Doing clinical trials and stuff, provided that they do that right. Okay, that's something they can do really well. The psychologists that are licensed. We get into dealing with mental disorders that are diagnosables. Some of them can be very talented with that, but we start getting into normal people who are within the span or spectrum of normal, not someone with a disorder, doing relationships, doing life. They start to fall short. So I didn't have the passion to go back and get a degree in something to have to play a game when I know that there's too many mistakes and it's wrong.
That's this very very simple. It's funny you said that. I was similar to me because I have my undergraduate in psychology, my bachelor's in science, and I was going to get my PsyD because you can get a PsyD. You're not a PhD, but you can get a PsyD doctorate in 5 years. But then what I noticed was like they were like heavily pushing me to like put these people on a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
And I just, what do they say? 12 weeks of therapy and drugs, right? 12 weeks of therapy and drugs.
It's always drugs. Yeah.
And it's just like, I took some, I had some anxiety during finals and shit when I was in University of Central Florida, Central Florida. And they were telling me like, hey, you know what? We really think you should go to like this medical office we have here on the campus, blah, blah, blah. And so long story short, they were like, take these antidepressants. And like they kind of like didn't force it on me, but they were like, yo, like take these antidepressants,
right,
do it. And I took them, and like they made me feel like suicidal. They made me feel like I need to get out of this existence, this reality.
Sure.
I remember I was driving down University Boulevard in Orlando, Florida, and I just took the fucking pills and I threw them out my car. And when I was driving, I was like, nope. I was like, I'm better off going home smoking some weed than dealing with this shit.
Dude. Well, that's the thing. The drugs that they're prescribing through psychiatry and psychiatrists and MDs are detrimental. They create detrimental long-term consequences. They when you're dealing with dopamine receptors with, let's say, ADHD medication, that's actually very low consequence in terms of long-term problems. But when you start messing with the serotonin centers of the brain through antipsychotics or SSRIs, you're dealing with now long-term changes if you're on them for any length of time, and it can be catastrophic. And I'll tell you a couple examples. One that's very personal to me. I actually have never shared with you, so this will be good for your show, I think. But it's important. One thing was dealing with soldiers making that final solution, right? The self-selecting. They don't like the word here on YouTube, so I won't say it, but you know what I mean. So much of that, and the mental health system doing their normal paradigm, which is do some counseling that doesn't really help to determine a diagnosis, and then they get on some meds and then rinse and repeat. Well, these guys are fine. I'm going to their funerals later. So we know that that's not working. And now we'll add in, here's another real personal one. So my son has some neurological difficulties. We'll put it like that. Some different diagnoses, but it's not really that important for here. And, I adopted my son when he was 1 month old, and he had difficulties and cannot handle the stressors in regular school. And he was, having these like freakouts and freaking out and then getting pulled and taken out of school. And a lot of stuff was happening when I was in and out of deployments. And so it
Mm.
was very difficult for me to be there and to work with him. And they had him on a tract that would have put him in an institution by the time he was 15. And
Jesus
this is
Christ.
right. The system was, you start working with the system with your child, you realize how broken it is. And again, I don't mean to slam on good psychologists out there and stuff that know this stuff and that
Yeah.
separate themselves, but the system is very lazy and designed to keep people more or less under control or in a prison. It's not designed to get them better. And so he's being forced, like he has these panic attacks and freakouts. He gets forced to go to the hospital because literally this kid's 8 years old, the police are showing up, you know what I
Mm.
mean, and to take him out or whatever. And this is like a lot of times I'm gone on military training or whatever, and they're taking him into the hospital, and then the hospital, they're pumping him with drugs to calm him down. And then they're saying, okay, well, he needs to go into an inpatient so that he can get better. And then this happened at one point, and I pulled him out of this, but he goes into an inpatient, and this was uh,
Inpatients when they make them go inside like a hospital to live.
a mental hospital, in a
And
sense.
how old was he when they did this?
He was 9. This is at
Jesus
this point.
Christ.
Right. So now this 9-year-old is going into this mental facility for children, right? And if you say no to it, they call CPS on you. The doctors say, well, we have to call CPS.
And CPS is Child Protective Services, like the
Right.
government.
So now
Wow.
the government comes in, Child Protective Services comes in, and they can make the claim that you're not caring for your child well enough, and start a process of having your child removed. And of course, me not being home to just like out alpha the system, this is sort of happening while I'm gone. And so he gets pulled, and then they make the suggestion, well, go to this, inpatient in order to get himself under control, because he just had these self-control issues. But it turns out it was more along the lines of what we could call an Asperger's, and his perceptions were off, and it's very hard for him to interact, and his anxiety would go through the roof, and he'd freak out. Okay.
Hmm.
And so while he gets into the facility, what do they start doing? Pumping him with drugs. He's on
Hmm.
4 or 5 different medications, getting worse, getting worse. And then I finally come in, and and then now we're restricted. I come off of some training. He's in this facility, and you can't just go see your kid now. He's now segregated from you, like almost like a prisoner. He can do a call. This is a 9-year-old can do a phone call, once a day, maybe if he gets his phone privileges. Like literally, it's like a damn prison.
Jesus
And
Christ.
then right, and you get visitation only on certain days.
And
And but it's
did
yeah,
his mom sign off on this? I feel like his mom signed off on this.
but she's not a bad person either. She didn't know what to do, because he was
Ugh. Okay.
he kept having these freakouts, and she was taking him to every psychologist and counselor, and they just kept suggesting whatever their just expertise. Oh, I think it's ADHD. Oh, I think it's anxiety. Oh, I think this. And then they would try to throw meds at him.
And none of them
This
really
is
gave a shit.
No, they didn't care, And so there was nobody that really diving into it. And then so she didn't know what to do, and she was convinced, because she was told that this would be a better thing for him, that he just needs some consequences, and he needs to, get in some structure. And then of course it's going to be unhappy for him to be away from home, but then maybe that's a good thing, because then he'll be motivated to do better. The kid wasn't capable of doing better, because he had, it's like, imagine taking an autistic child and throwing him in a jail. That's like what happened. And so I go on visit. He's losing his mind. And I'm like, and I'm not supposed to go outside the visitation room. I'm like, hey, let me go see him. I'm going to go see him. They're like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. I went, yeah, I get it. But you're not doing, that this isn't going to work out well with you guys. So let me, you're going to break rules right now. You're going to let me do it. Okay, yeah, fine. So I'm very persuasive. And so then I'm sitting, and talking to him. And I was always the one who could calm him down, because I was that, that stable force in his life, even more than his mom. And his mom does a very good job. And he was out of his mind. He couldn't calm himself down. He was freaking out. And there was nothing, like, he was like, yelling at me and yelling at people. He was out of his freaking mind. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, this is not, he is so far worse than when we started this thing. I could always calm him down. He was always fine at home. It was in other outside places because of the stressors and the perceptions. Neurologically, he couldn't perceive the outside world, in a way that wasn't stressful, and it would bring his anxiety up. And so I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, he's getting out of here. And they're like, well, I can't just take my kid. You can't just do that. They have to get signed off by like a panel. I went, you're going to get him out of here, or I'm going to get him out of here. You got till tomorrow. Yeah. And they're just like, I don't think you understand how serious I am. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you understand that I'm going to win this. And you're not. So I'll be taking him tomorrow. And they didn't want my trouble, so they let him go. Yeah. Okay. And then there was this process of them trying to put him into a drug program, basically, where he's shot up with meds, or else they call CPS. And you know what? I just had him call CPS, have him come over. And they would come over. It'd be very nice. I'd let them inside. They would see that my home is very clean and has a lot of square footage, and there's a lot of things for those kids and resources. And I was working on different things, but I ended up having to do alternative methods with them, using neurologists and using brain imaging and using different stuff. The success story is he's like 100 times better now than he ever used to be. But I knew people who worked in care with kids, and this is the track that a kid would start 8, 9, 10 years old. By 15, his neuroreceptors in his brain are so destroyed that he can't self-regulate. He ends up in an institution and a risk now, because he could do something violent. He could do something to harm himself or harm someone else, because his brain is so unregulated. That's where they end up there. And the system puts them there. And guess what? Keeps criminals off the street in their mind, because not every parent is equipped. Unfortunately, not every parent's equipped like I am to be able to, and his mom, and the help that he does have, to have the resources and to have the ability to help this kid. Right. But anyway, that's a little side story. You realize how broken that system is for a lot of people. And if you're going to a psychologist or any health professional, and I would say even any of us, right? You're coming to me for help, do your homework, even on me. This is your journey, your thing. And you need to make sure that take responsibility for it. Don't let other people do that for you, because you could end up in a place you don't want to be. Right. But at any rate, that's what got me really motivated to do what I'm doing now. My military background, though, really brought to light a lot of things and brought me in touch with different people to get me some more education in this stuff in an alternative way. So becoming an EMDR therapist, hypnotherapist, and, more or less, mindset, being able to do neural behavioral conditioning, and some of the, certification courses I took outside of it. In the military, I was, an infantry guy. I got into specialized infantry areas and the special operations community as well. My last deployment, I was an advisor, and part of my job was to make friends with people, and then within those friendships, determine if they were a bad actor or not, or if they're bad actors in the government. So this is now human intelligence collection, much what you would think of, CIA type agents doing different things like that through interviews and stuff like that, the interviewing process. So you get really good at persuasion. You get really good, and you get trained in some different things. I got to have conversations with people over in the neurology department in Harvard, conversations about the effects of meditation on the brain, the effects of some of these mental fitness exercises that I now teach today through the courses and stuff like that are backed by science and backed by neurology, that'll help you literally use your neuroplasticity to change your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, all that stuff. So that's really what put me on this track. I don't talk too much about the military background, security clearance reasons, but
that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was.
I don't want to get sniped.
The NSA comes down, shuts it down. But yeah, so that was, so that was having a lot of different experiences.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you what was interesting is I went through my own crisis with those things too, because you
Mm.
start to learn how easily people are influenced. Like you can influence the mob to do things, we do it as governments all the time with psyops and stuff like that. You can influence individuals to act out of character, to do things that wouldn't have fit their moral paradigm before. And it's almost disturbing because you learn how to do that and you start to realize, like, wait a second, it makes you question a lot. You're like, is there, and of course I do believe that there's a free will, but you're like, is there even a free will, or is everybody operating on programming?
I don't.
And
I think that's such a high level question that probably went over everybody's fucking head.
no, no, they're like, tell us about boobs, how do I get a girl with weird boobies? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do I get the girls?
Yeah, so anyway,
Um,
how does it translate? Yeah. To
but
getting laid.
I think yeah, like I. I'm trying to, because there's so much depth to what you bring to the table. I'm trying to like pinpoint it and slowly feed it to the audience. How about this? Obviously, you had the great background psychologically, right?
Mhm.
You're $500 an hour, and you're pretty much booked out like daily, and it's been like that for how many months now?
Ah, well, I see. I was booked to a point where I did had no breathing room to really be able to do my membership programs. And
Hmm.
so I'm like, holy crap, I gotta raise my rate, because either I'm gonna just knock out session, like I can't do anymore, just make it full, or I can just raise the rate. And I'd rather work with people in membership type programs or even course type programs, because I don't mind doing one-off sessions to help
Hmm.
guys. Don't,
Yeah.
but really in like my membership, my frame and seduction mastery mastermind program, it's like I got a year now with a guy, so I can really get into that guy's stuff. So I would rather
Yeah.
do like higher ticket item, year-long memberships where really I can get to know a guy really well and see that progress. Because what I do is at a much higher level of depth, and it's hard for a guy really to benefit from that in just one session from me, although he can benefit from that. But he's not, there's no thing I can do to give him the magic wand to change his whole life in one session, whereas a year long working with me, that's better. So for me to have the time to do that and how intensive that kind of thing is, I had to raise my rates, and I'm still booked. I got to package it, and then I have to close it. Usually if I get to a point in the month where I have to cut off taking anybody until I cycle through some stuff. And it's, but man, they get results, and they get it so quickly that I
Hmm.
haven't had anybody be like, yeah, that really wasn't worth the money. you know,
Right.
they're my testimonials are really high, because I care about what I'm doing, and I just don't give up on a guy. We're gonna figure it out no matter what. You
There's
know,
the one thing that I loved to do, what I learned from you was when we were doing some work in November. And obviously I still have like the shadows of my childhood telling me like,
no,
you're a
yeah,
fucking loser, you're a bad guy. And I just used to stop the thoughts when they came. But you told me something that's really important. I tell it to everybody now. Not only do you tell the thoughts to stop when the negative thoughts happen, but you need to build a counter argument in your mind and fight back. And it's like, sounds like psychotic. It sounds like crazy, but it's so important to do that.
yeah.
What would you say, because of all the people you're coaching, you're coaching hundreds of people. Your brand is blowing up behind the scenes. Um, what would you say is like the number one thing you see guys doing wrong in regards to inner game, the red pill application, the manosphere, all that? What's the number one thing you see guys doing wrong?
Whew. Man, that's a tough one. I would say latching on to negative beliefs that get promoted in the space to
Mm,
make themselves feel better. And
mm,
therefore they're confirmation biasing a negative belief set that is really designed to hinder them from doing well. Like if
what
I yeah,
could you give an example?
yeah, all women are like that.
Yeah,
Now, here's the idea. All women are like that. So let's look at the usefulness of that. So the
right.
usefulness of that is, okay, when I'm was conditioned before to pedestalize women and to
Yeah.
see women as this is the good women and then these are the bad women. The one that did a dirty sex thing is a bad one. I want the good ones. Well, that's not right either. You know what I mean? That's no, every woman has a propensity to do bad things. And when we talk about bad, I put it in quotation because what are we talking about? What, she one night standed a guy? Wow, she had some sex. Ooh, so bad, right? Like, I mean, now is that repeatedly, doing that repeatedly, is that going to help her be good in a relationship? No, probably going to hinder her. But guys will get, really judgmental with stuff like that. And then they'll assume, okay, if I'm pedestalizing women, to say all women are like that, that can be good in the sense now I'm not going to put these women on these different pedestals. I can bring them down to reality and say, okay, they're all human beings with
Yeah.
propensity of making mistake.
Yep.
But then they take that ball and they run with it with all women will just cheat on you. All women are liars. All women are this. And so then they confirm a bunch of negative biases they have about people and relationships, which is only going to stimulate their anxiety and make them do what we say maladaptive, but we could use a smaller word as toxic or destructive things in relationships with these women. And I've had so many guys come to me after implementing strategies they've gotten from people in the space, and they're like, okay, I destroyed my last relationship because I was a toxic human being, because I just figured she was this, that she was that, she was out to hurt me. And then, and now what do I do? And that's a sad place to be, because you're like, a lot of times you're like, you're not getting that girl back. You're going to have to deal with and process through and the guilt of your mistakes, and then just be able to forgive yourself and be better moving forward. But wouldn't it be nice to not have to go through that step and harm someone else in the process, harm yourself, so some of these ideas, which were designed for okay reasons, like I get the all women are like that thing as a concept to break that social conditioning, but
Yep.
You can't use some of these concepts to fuel a negative belief set, because that's not objective either. We want the truth. And so the truth is not really going to be, that means not having a negative bias. You don't want to have an overly positive bias, of course, but that's not true. But you don't want to have a negative bias either. You want to see things how they are, and then you want to say, okay, what can I do with this?
Right.
And if what you can do with it gets you the positive results, things you want,
What I really learned from you, it was twofold. When you have a great video, I think your YouTube channel is totally slept on. His YouTube channel is Apex Mindset for you guys. And go check it out for sure. It's so good. Two parts. Okay. One, this is something I fell victim into, and I think a lot of guys in this space fall victim into. Is like, and I know I'm gonna get somebody in the comments calling me a fucking simp, but like we like demand perfection from our women.
Yeah.
And if she makes one mistake, she's a cheating fucking whore. Next her, hard
Negative
next that
bias.
slut, fucking whore, and it's like, whoa, dude, like you have to be logical and be like, she is a flawed human being, just like you
Just
are.
like anyone else.
Yeah.
And that would,
And to top it off, also, right? They don't factor in how these look like these girls, dude, on a global scale. These bitches, not only are they lost, but they are set up to lose.
yes.
They
100%.
the deck is so massively stacked against them. A lot of these girls just don't understand that like getting ran through is like the number one thing we don't want them to be doing.
Right. Yeah. And then they're
they
out
don't
doing it anyway.
and they're out doing it not in a malicious way, because just nobody taught them.
No,
And they were, like you said, they were influenced by who? The mainstream narrative. Where does the mainstream narrative come from? Corporations and fucking governments who just want to fucking destroy them financially and fleece them for votes. And these poor girls are, waking up in their 30s and late 20s and be like, oh my God, like what in the proper fuck, dude? I'm fucked. My life is fucked. It's like the guy who's like, I got the job. I got the fucking the white picket fence. I got the degree. I paid my taxes. Like, where's my woman? I followed the script. They're the same way, but they're used up and broken at the other side of the end.
Absolutely.
The whole transaction. It's fucking sad, man, because I've had girls like confess to me. They'll be like, I totally regret having sex with all these dudes, and my whole past, I regret it all. I feel so dumb. I feel used up, and like these girls are, like broken and crying. This is multiple women telling me, like from multiple
Sure.
races all over the planet, and it's just it's crazy. It's really crazy. I think the number one thing that's missing from the red pill space and the manosphere space are healthy relationship models for men
Oh,
and
yes.
women. Because
Mhm.
I think both of us, you have fucked hundreds of girls, I have fucked hundreds of girls. We both have come to the conclusion like this endless player fucking girls forever thing, it's
Right.
not it doesn't end pretty. It's not a good ending, in my opinion.
No. Well, you can look at the ending for a lot of these guys that are, relatively big names in the pickup industry. A lot of it ends in turmoil. A lot of it ends in, you know, really bad places, or they end in a long-term relationship. Well, what's the deal? I thought that was, not alpha to have a long-term relationship. No, they end up in that. So they come to a conclusion at some point after done running through, hoe after hoe.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a second. There's got to be something more to this. This,
Yes.
they want to take it a step further and deeper because, we're designed that way. As social
Yes.
animals, we're designed to do, once we get our basic needs met,
Hmm.
well, now what is there? We're designed to kind of progress and continue to dig deeper and find that inspiration in what we want. You know, I mean, it's just, money, right? It's like when I'm, you know, literally when I was living week to week, check to check, those days, right?
Yeah.
You're in scarcity. You just want to know you just want to make more money. But once you start making money, you're like, shoot, well, shit, what do I do with all this money now? And what's the best, it's a different level of problem, different questions you end up asking yourself. Well, when you're not getting girls, you're not getting the results you want. It's like, I just want to get girls. I just want to get laid. And so then once you start getting that, it's like, okay, now what? you know, this
Yeah.
is actually not, this is cool that I have these skill sets to be able to seduce a woman where I didn't before, but now how do I make it work long term? And then sometimes they find out that the skill sets that they learned to get laid actually hinders them now to make it work with a girl long term, or
Yeah.
to select a girl that's going to be a good choice for a long
Hmm.
term partner. Which is why, like when I teach pickup and game, I can teach it just like anybody else could, but I do it differently. I start from an internal framework and building a guy up internally, understanding that, back to that identity, who he actually is, then understanding that, okay, he's now presenting what I call an archetype, which is basically his persona out into the world in a general way. And then from there, we get into, okay, what role are you playing once you end up face to face with this other person? Because they
Right.
have a perception, you have a perception, and something that you're delivering. And then there's the environment that you're in. And those things all have to sync up pretty well. And then how do you get her to challenge the role that she has you in? So if she has you in the role, let's say as customer, okay, just a guy who, she works for one company and you work for another company, and you come in and you get supplies from that company for your work, whatever, and she's the cute girl that processes your stuff. She sees you just as a customer. There's a role there, and it's professional, and it has a bunch of, stigmas to it. Well, how do you get that girl now to see you as the role of the guy she would sleep with? And
Hmm.
so it's learning how to actually change her perceptions of the role that you're in. Most of pickup is relatively easy. They learn some skills, but all they're doing is putting themselves in situation where the girl already sees you in role. So if I go to pick up on girls at night, I get shot down, shot down, shot down. Okay, this one gives me a phone number. This one shot down, shot down. This one sleeps with me. The only difference between the two girls that I got positive results from and the ones they got rejected was they just didn't see me in the role as the guy that they would sleep with, which
Hmm.
could have been their mental state, their hormonal state, how she just sees you in comparison to sexual triggers she has in her unconscious, right? And so all a guy is doing is really just playing the numbers game with pickup skills. But when I take a guy into pickup, I take him into being able to know himself very well, control the frame, and then change her perception of the role. So she could be like, normally, this is how guys can get out of the friend zone. Not that I recommend they waste a ton of time on that, but she sees this guy in the role as friend. And then all of a sudden, he's able to transform her perceptions of him based on certain behaviors, ways of interacting, pulling back attention, ways of talking to her. And all of a sudden, she went from this guy's unmateable to I'm not so sure that about that now. I'm questioning that just because of how he's interacting with me, then to the role of guy I would actually maybe sleep with, right?
Mhm.
And so that's a whole deeper level now. But to get there, you got to really know yourself. Otherwise, you'll lose yourself. And that's the other point. If you're just playing roles all the time, you're like a damn psychopath who doesn't have an identity, and you're just playing you're play acting for every girl you're with. Well, that's not a recipe for success, because what happens when she's with you for a length of time and she sees through your game and your bullshit? She's going to see who you are to a degree. And if what you've been play acting isn't congruent with who you are actually, when she's in that, then she's going to start to question the role that she had you in, which was the guy that's my apex alpha that I really want to be with. She'll question all those things if you're not congruent with that perception and persona that you had been presenting in the beginning of the game, right? And
Mhm.
so it's taking a guy and having him be able to learn game to a higher level, but also not lose himself in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's truly like, I think about I was thinking about, because when you and I had our conversations in November, and even now, and whatever, you really helped me kind of realize at what level I am in all of the things: game perception, psychological perception, meaningless stuff like finances and shit like that. But I was just thinking, like, God damn, like, my heart goes out to the average dude, because to get to our level, I don't think, like, people like they like, what did they say? The MLD is the loudmouth of Rule Zero, and Paul's the dumb guy, right? But
Yeah,
they don't really see the level of work that we have to do behind the scenes to achieve the level of skill that we have, the level of, quite frankly, mastery that we
yeah,
have. And it's just so wild, because like I said, after our conversations, like, the average guy truly does not stand a chance against us. And it's such an unfair fight.
yeah,
And I'm 36, you're 44, and like, it was still like, I playfully said it, but when you did the conversation with Torsia, I could
yeah,
see she was all over you. She was dripping. I was just like, good Lord, girl, fucking put it in your pants. Like, know, in a good way, but
yeah,
it's just the natural attraction that you make women feel. That being said, pulling it back to men, inner game stuff like this, I want to ask you about this, because we put it in the comments, in the description box below. You said that even if the guy gets all the physical stuff, because you and I'm not a big fan of people who say, like, don't don't go after women, don't learn women, don't learn game, because it's really bad advice. Because the thing is, if you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna swear off women, I'm gonna get rich as fuck, and I'm gonna get jacked as fuck. Well, now you're extremely attractive. You're gonna attract women, but you have no idea how to interact with them. And
right,
the average woman's level of game is way higher than the average guys, because women are
sure.
forced to play because guys are always approaching them.
Mm.
That being said, you say that if a guy is to ignore the inner game shit that he has and neglect game, it's going to end very badly for him. Could you elaborate on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. And so a couple of things. So the chasing, there's a thing in the space of don't chase women, just work on yourself and chase
Right.
excellence and all that. And here's how that's true, which is guys and guys that I respect greatly that say that this is why that's correct. It's because you know guys will put women as their first priority, and I've done that before, and that's a mistake. I mean, there
Yeah.
was a time where I just didn't care, was living out my car, and then banging different girls like during the week. And that's like, it was like a period where I just said, screw it, I'm going to be nomadic. And I literally was partially living at girls' houses, just giving, just banging them or whatever and doing whatever. I was total savage, crazy
Adopt
person.
a Paul.
Yeah, right. It's like a gigolo, or something, but I was just doing it for rent, and so like, and it was a goofy time in my life, but what a loser I was not being on my own mental point of origin and just banging different girls. Like, I'm not accomplishing anything. And so that would be an extreme case of what not to do. Right. And being on your purpose is attractive, but it's just like working out. I'm not going to be like, I'm just going to dedicate my time to my business and then don't do any exercise whatsoever. I'm going to let my body get, weak and unhealthy and flabby. And no, that would be a terrible idea, And so that's where the point gets missed with a lot of these guys is no, you have to work on your skills with women or you will suffer the consequences. Whether that consequence is just being alone and not having a reproductive value, or whether it's, here's the worst case, and it happens all the time because I get these guys in consults, is they've done the thing. They're 7-figure guys or more.
Yeah.
They're high value. They look decent and they don't have their shit together. And then they can't determine whether the girl that they're seeing, the hot, young, whatever that makes him feel good, is after him because she sees him as an apex alpha or after him because he's a resource provider. And that's the challenge. See, there's 3 things that will determine a guy's success with his relationships with women. And that's sexual market value. That's opportunity, meaning being able to meet them, right? And then the third thing is your skill set, which is your game and your ability to pick and vet and make good choices.
Right.
Well, they don't work on the skill set. Here's what happens. You run into Johnny Depp scenario or Will Smith scenario. Their S&V is so damn high. I mean, look at that Will Smith thing. I only mention him because I like the guy so much. He's so successful and so talented, and he's a decent looking guy. His S&V is high. He's nothing but opportunity. Skills suck. He can't pick out from a barrel of women that he has choices from who's a good choice and who isn't.
Yeah,
because at the end of it is. And at the end of the day, what a guy wants to do, he doesn't want to be weak with his woman unless he needs a mommy. Okay. So we're not talking about that, but he wants to be able to strip out all the bullshit and just be and know that whoever he is, regardless of what's in his bank account, regardless of the games that he's, running, regardless of some of whatever things and externalities, this chick is going to love him and accept him for who he is.
It really alleviates a lot of stress when you're with a girl and
Right.
then that, okay, this girl like really likes me for me.
Right.
Because you don't have to like roll around at night like, is this bitch with me because I have fucking money? Is this bitch with me because I just pipe her down good?
Yeah.
Like, is
right.
she what's her agenda? Because I've been in situations where, I'm not trying to show off whatever, but since I've became more financially successful or whatever,
Yeah.
that's a thing now. I'm like, is this bitch is this bitch fucking like me or is she after my fucking bag?
Right. Exactly.
But you have to understand how to truly vet the woman and see like, okay, actually, I have figured out by observing her and noticing patterns that this chick actually does like me for me, and that's a great thing because, I have friends in Tokyo that are like models and like they're like super, super jacked, shredded, really good looking guys. And they like come to me and they're like, man, these bitches, they only want me for my fucking body, bro. It's like kind of sad and depressing. And I'm like, wow, I never heard this side of the tracks before, know?
Yeah, but it's the S&V trap actually is that, you don't know. For me, it was just how I would just bang them. Like I didn't have any money, but I could figure out how to bang them real good and be like super dominant. Right. And that was me, for a while. And it was just like, well, wait a second. I'm only, and they're truthfully women that I had I had been in a relationship with, had a lot of emotions for, that truly only wanted me around for the good time I could provide. And that if I
Mm,
was, if all of a sudden my dick didn't work because I was on a hospital bed and I had, I don't know, dick cancer or something,
mm,
she's not going to be around. You know what I mean? If
right.
she is, it's just to feel like a good person
Yeah.
while she goes off and lives her life. She's not going to be like, you know, holy crap, I really love this man for who he is,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know what to do with myself. And that's really a bad place to be. And I think that the mistake in this space is to assume that women can't have that or think that.
Mm.
I think that's a big mistake, that because
What
women
do you mean have that or think that? What is that or think that?
have the emotional connection to a degree where they would be with a guy even if the like he's unable to provide the things that she initially got with him for. In
Oh
other
yeah.
words, so that if you lost your money, or if you lost your health, or if you
Hmm.
lost some part of yourself, that she just wouldn't care and would jump to the next guy. I mean, that's true to a lot of cases, but there's a lot of cases as well where that's not true. And
Yeah.
it's just this confusion because women do make selections on men through pragmatic means. Like the initial selection is pragmatic, but they get an emotional draw and they associate this person with the neurochemicals of love and bonding and all those things. If they didn't ruin that mechanism in themselves through
Right.
previous behaviors, they have that mechanism. And a guy, you know, losing something isn't going to make her just mate switch because of hypergamy. That's a mistake.
Mm,
She has this mechanism. She's alpha widowed essentially by his old self. You know what I
mm,
mean? There
mm.
isn't another guy she's going to replace him with because maybe he's not who he used to be, but he's still that person. And just like the girl gets alpha widowed from that ex boyfriend she can never replace when she's younger, he's that person. And so she can't switch. And she
Yeah.
still loves him because it's who he is and what she remembers from him. And I think that that's an important point, but guys will get in the negative space. They don't believe it. you know?
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Like a lot of guys just believe that these chicks are like, and I think it ties into mommy issues and abandonment issues. They think that these girls are sitting around and like the moment the guy screws up, like ready to fucking jump out and go jump on a new dick. It's gradual.
Mhm.
And
And
you gotta vet the girl, and you gotta make sure, like I've noticed today in today's day and age, like most women just don't know how to be girlfriends in
no,
relationship.
they don't.
Most women. I would a global
Yeah.
blanket statement, I would say 80% of women have no idea how to be a girlfriend, how to have happy, positive, healthy boundaries, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
How to
And
handle things in the relationship, communicate, conflict,
a
all those
lot,
things.
yeah, a lot of these girls, dude, they really all believe they are special, special princess, and that like if there's any point in the relationship where there is fighting or conflict or anything, they're like, you know what? Fuck this guy. He's a toxic piece of shit. I deserve better. I know my worth. Blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah. I've dealt with this shit all across the globe. And the mature thing to do and the healthy thing to do is realize, like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. We have a problem that we need to work through. Now, look, I understand he's fucking feeding you haymakers for breakfast. Obviously, leave the guy. But it's
Right.
like, oh, he fucking, keeps on texting girls and I tell him not to, or he goes out and doesn't spend enough time with me and he's always drinking and shit like that. Like little things like that. Because I think nowadays, right, we live in this instant gratification
Yes.
generation. Like we get Netflix when we want, we get Amazon when we want, we get Hulu when we want, we get Uber Eats food instantly, Uber on the dot, right? I get swipes, I get instant matches, all that shit, right? We get all this instant satisfaction, and we think that relationships should follow the same pattern, but that's not
Yep.
true. That's
No.
not true at all. And guys
Mhm.
think this shit too. Guys are
Right.
just equally retarded. We're
Mhm.
all
Oh
fucking
yeah.
bunch of retards.
Yeah, we're so quick to discard. Yeah, we're so quick to discard a woman instead of diving in deeper and to see if, I mean, sometimes being quick to go to the next one can help you, but
Mhm.
sometimes it harms you. Sometimes you're leaving good choices for bad ones. If you're leaving a good choice because a girl is not on the surface perfect, because she was really honest and open with you about her flaws, and then you go with another girl who, let's say, is really good at hiding those things, maybe a BPD type who love
Mm.
bombs the crap out of you for 6 months and seems like the perfect mate, but she's really not being anything close to herself. Did you make a good choice? No, you made a terrible choice, right? And so it's being able to understand, yeah, people aren't perfect. And
Right.
although she makes these choices, those
Right.
choices aren't without influence. We have to have some compassion for the crappy influences that women have had to make these crappy choices. And
Yeah,
it's not a
everywhere.
question, right? And so then it's a question of, well, can she, be in my frame and move past those things? Yeah, she's not a good girlfriend with some of her behaviors, but is she able and capable enough to have the emotional draw to me in enough in this relationship where, okay, before this commitment happens, she starts doing the healthy things I need her to do to be in a commitment with me. We need to not be so quick to discard and dig a bit deeper. And I'm not saying you're her teacher or your mentor or coach. You're not. You're her man. But
Yeah.
you lead by setting standards, setting examples, and being able to make more or less statements of fact to her, and allowing her to sort of open her eyes to a different lifestyle and different way of being, and that's something that we need to elevate ourselves to. The people we choose are a reflection of us. And I hate to say that because I
Mm.
made so many bad choices, which means I had bad shit going on in myself.
Yeah.
When I can't blame my a BPDX for being for everything, because I chose that. What was wrong with me to choose that? And here's the thing: if a guy thinks, well, women are just going to discard you for the better deal as soon as you can't, you know, provide A, B, and C for them, guess who you're going to pick? That girl. That girl is who you're going to pick to be with, because that's the model of what you think is normal.
Yeah.
But if you say to yourself, well, wait a second, I think there are girls out there that can have an emotional bond. And although they're going to be pragmatic and they're going to choose the best deal at first, when I get in relationship with them and they see and have this bond with me and have these experiences with me, there's going to be an emotional component there. They're not just going to, okay, like, guess what? He broke his leg the other day, and Chad over here, who's 2 inches taller, has a working leg. I'm going to go bang him instead. Like, it's not quite like that, because
Yeah.
there is the instinct, of course, to discard. There is, those things are there, but to counteract that, there's a bonding mechanism. And some girls have a really good, healthy bonding mechanism. And those are the ones that you pick. You don't pick the
Yeah.
one who's going to bang your friend because you got in an argument. You know what I mean? And then say, well, see, all women are like that. No, all women that you choose are like that because of your terrible mental model, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yuri with the 200 Russian rubles says, "Have you guys ever done dopamine detox? It fixes or significantly reduces instant gratification problem that they." Yeah, I did a dopamine detox in November. I just like really hardcore didn't do Instagram, didn't update anything,
That's
and
good.
it's really good. People don't
Yeah.
realize how burned out we are on our dopamine receptors. So,
Yeah.
right, let's go back to, the whole mechanism of inner game and why you think it's so important. For me, I realize that, yeah, twofold, right? One, we're constantly being brainwashed, and we're brainwashing others. If
Right.
ideally, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? Well,
Yeah.
you said influence. I'm just using more
It's the
crass
same.
words, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we're
Sure.
constantly being influenced and influencing people by what we've been influenced by, right?
Yeah.
So it's good in the sense of understanding this, because once you start to brainwash yourself, this is what I did, right? Because I knew, coming from a fucked up past and everything, I used to like legit MK Ultra myself. Like I made this thing like a
Yeah.
mind movie.
Mhm.
And have you ever seen that mind movie? Have I ever sent it to you?
I don't think so.
I'll send it to you after this. But at one point, right, in the video, it says like, you make so much money that you grow bored with it. You've mastered female psychology, all this shit. And I used to wake up and watch this shit first thing in the
Mhm.
morning and watch it last thing at night and
Perfect.
literally brainwashed myself. And this was
Yes.
10 years ago. And
Yep.
probably 75% of the stuff in the video came true.
Yes.
And I just knew that like I was like I knew enough about psychology and like you said neuroplasticity to
Yep.
know that I could fucking brainwash myself.
You
So
can.
the powerful
Mhm.
thing is, and this is why I tell people stay away from MGTOW and black pill content, because
Right.
even if you're just like I'm just observing it, I'm observing it to get a grand scheme of everything. No, this shit is poisoning you and it will fucking ruin you. But the good thing is, I listen to Audible all the time, right? Audiobooks. I listen like 1.75 speed. And I flood my mind with money books and psychology books and to get the direction I want to go, which is
Yeah.
how to make more money, how to have a clean psychology, whatever the case may be. Guys should know that you have the power to change yourself just by what you feed. But more importantly, I don't think guys realize how often they're being influenced right now
They don't.
on a daily basis. And it's fucking crazy.
Yep, they're unconsciously being influenced. And I love that you did that exercise because that is the essence of a core exercise that I have guys doing, which what I call the identity exercise, actually. I have it in the mindset course. And then that's an add on to the guys who get into my mastermind. It's critical that they do that exercise and go through it. It's a little different how I have them do it, but it's the same concept, which is really you're visualizing a standard for yourself. So here's how this works, right? Our brains aren't designed really to achieve and hit excellence. Our brains are designed for survival.
Yeah.
And that means that it's going to default to comfort. So
Right.
whatever is made, even if it's bad for us, even if it makes us, sick to our stomach with anxiety, to change that would even be more uncomfortable. So the brain fights to stay at this homeostasis level.
Mm.
Well, what happens is people, let's say they're not good with money. Well, they have a bunch of behaviors and belief systems that make that so. They surround themselves with people that confirm that
Yeah.
bias, and they're comfortable. They get comfortable being not good with money and having money problems. That's their comfort level. So if they want to overcome that, they actually have to visualize a standard outside of themselves where that new standard becomes normal, and then the current state is uncomfortable. So if you're visualizing this lifestyle out here and you're living not even close to that, you're uncomfortable. You
Mm.
get, okay, this is not. And then that discomfort causes you to do action, causes you to see opportunities where you didn't see them before, causes you to take and start removing bad habits and behaviors, sometimes naturally and unconsciously, and sometimes very consciously. You're just like, God, I hate being like this and I hate being broke. I know I need to do this thing or whatever that I need to do to do better. And then you start making yourself do it. The motivation then steps in to do the actual behavioral changes because the standard you're visualizing, whether it's that mind movies thing or whether you designed it yourself through the identity exercise, the standard you're visualizing becomes a new standard. I
Yeah.
had learned this a long time ago in some NLP training and some stuff I had years and years ago. And I was doing this not in the most disciplined way, but just it started off very disciplined. And then I moved into other mental fitness, but it's something I always came back to was visualizing the lifestyle I wanted. And if I can do it without screwing my camera up, I'll show people here. So I
Mm.
visualized living off of a lake and having an LTR that was beautiful with dark hair and a nice butt
Mhm.
and running a business. At the time, I didn't know it'd be Apex Mindset, but I running a business that influenced and helped a lot of people that I could do remotely. So I could travel, go wherever I wanted. And I visualized like waking up in the morning and how my routine would look. And I'll just kind of see if I can show that's my right outside my window there.
Beautiful.
Yep. And it's of course wintertime, but that's my lake out there,
Yeah.
right? So I got a lakefront property now. And I have two of them, in fact, one up in Michigan or northern Michigan. And so here's the thing with that though. I didn't really realize it was me assigning this exercise later to somebody. And I knew it helped me, but I didn't really realize the impact. And then as I was assigning it, I went, holy crap. I went, I'm living this entire thing that that I imagined.
Mm-hmm.
I'm living it. I'm making the kind of money I'm doing. Everything's the same. And so I was like, holy shit. And so I ended up coming up with a different mind map and coming up with a different set of standards. And now I visualize something different that's higher
Mm-hmm.
than where I'm at. And I make myself uncomfortable being where I'm at, which motivates me every day to get up in the morning, cram my schedule with consults, figure out things I don't like dealing with, like technology and admin stuff and all that. It motivates the hell out of me, and I'm happy doing it because of
Mm-hmm.
that exercise, man. And you came across that and came into that on your own, which I think is amazing. And
Yeah.
that's something we both impart to people, and it's
And I
great.
think and I think that's the backbone of why mentorship is a successful thing for
Right?
guys, because you have somebody who has a complete different perception of reality that challenges you. Because like for me, right, last year did well for myself, right? And my mentor, I went and had lunch with him a couple weeks ago, and he closed a deal for $150 million. And we were having lunch together. He's like, how does it feel to be such a loser? And,
I love it.
in a
That's amazing.
joking
Yeah,
way, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
But but and it's funny because I hang out with friends, and there's some friends around me that are they've seen me from 2017 when it first came to Tokyo to where I am now. They're like, dude, like what you've done is amazing. And I'm so grateful that these people are in my life to say these nice things about me. But
Yeah.
now I surround myself with, titans like, Charlie Cultivar Crypto doing very well for himself. My 9-figure friend, I have an 8-figure friend, I have a 7-figure friend, right?
Mhm.
And just by being around these people, it kind of it devalues my success to an extent, and I believe a healthy way, but
Yeah, it makes you
also
uncomfortable so that you get you want to achieve more. It's
yes,
good. Yeah,
yes. And
it's very healthy.
I think that's what a lot of guys don't seem to realize. Like the great thing about what we're talking about is once you get your inner game sorted out and you get all of the anxieties, the insecurities, the bad shit out of you, and then you apply this mental model that we're talking about. That's the greatest thing about life. The greatest thing about life, especially being a man, is whatever you want, you have a pretty good shot at achieving it as long as you brainwash yourself in the right direction. Because that's the thing. You may say, like for example, right? There's this new drama that just came out in Japan, right? And I was talking to my lady about it, and it's about 6 cheating wives and stepping out on their husbands and all this. And I was like, you are not allowed to watch this shit. I was like, because even by watching it in like just as an objective observer, it's still going to influence you.
Yep.
And I said, you're gonna poison your mind, and that's gonna fucking affect us, because what they do, they're glorifying cheating, they're glorifying all this bad shit, right? And other stuff too. Like you're gonna watch like murder movies or horror films or any of these negative shit, or like like the Singles Inferno, any of this fucking mind trash that gives you a false perception of reality, that influences you in a negative way, that is going to affect your life. And people think that, oh, well, whatever I do to myself is not going to affect those around me. Absolutely the worst, dumbest shit you can ever
Yep.
say. Like, that's like saying, like, I have this toxic friend and they've been cool and all, but I'm going to keep this toxic friend around. I have fallen into that victim mindset before, like, or
Yep.
I've fallen victim to that mindset in the sense of saying, like, well, this guy's he's kind of an asshole, he's a little bit toxic, but I'm gonna keep him around because he's my friend. But
Yep.
eventually, that you're gonna have to make a point to, like, okay, am I gonna put my well-being ahead of like trying to be a good person? Because a toxic person is going to pull you down, whether you are a good person, you're nice, whatever. Toxic people are going to pull you down.
Right.
Non-toxic people are going to push you up. You have more toxic people in your life, guess what? Your life is going to become shit. You have less toxic people in your life, you have more uplifting people, your life is going to go up. Life is impartial to your feelings or anything. It's just very objective and logical. And
Right.
having these people in your life, having these influences, whether it be people, media, music, all that stuff. I mean, you're old enough as well as I am to notice, like, you've seen how we've seen like America and mainstream music and shit have become super simpy, like
Yes.
super, super, super simpy.
Real bad. Real bad. Well, and this gets into the sabotage aspect of it. So people sabotage even after they achieve. So they do all this work to envision something higher than themselves. They get uncomfortable.
2 seconds to be
They
right back.
Yep. They do all this work to get to a place where now they're achieving their vision. And then what do? Sometimes they sabotage themselves. They do things that cause them to lose all of it, or do things to cause themselves to get zeroed out in some way. And I'm not even talking about financially. I mean, maybe even emotionally or mentally. And it could be falling into old patterns with influences and old influences. And it's not like your toxic friends, for example, are intending necessarily to drag you down. But what happens is they can't help it, and they just are who they are, and then that ends up influencing you. And you have to exert so much mental energy to challenge that influence and to control that influence when you're around this person a lot, or around people like that a lot. Anytime you're dealing with a negative influence, that's energy expended on preventing that influence from hitting you in a negative way, which is energy that cannot be spent achieving excellence and doing better. And you don't have infinite energy within a time frame. In a 24-hour day, and I say energy, I'm not talking esoteric or anything. I'm talking, it's literally neurochemical. You only have a certain amount of neurochemical ability to put in effort. And once that runs out, you're running on fumes. And then if you have toxic influences, you can't necessarily put those barriers up. Those require things, like this. Think of people in a toxic relationship, right? I've been guilty of this. You're expending all this, you have all the skills. So you keep a girl in frame, but she requires you to expend tons of energy to do so. Because her tendencies are toxic. And so she's only in your frame because it benefits her, and she's emotionally bought in. But as soon as you know, sleep, if you don't sleep with one eye open, in a sense, as soon as you get a little bit attention in another direction, she's now out of pocket. She's now creating an argument. She's now creating problems. And then you have to exert all of this effort and energy again to put her
Oh,
back into pocket. It's
it's so terrible.
exhausting.
I've
Yep.
been there. It's fucking terrible.
Me too. And you know what it is? That's energy that you can't put into achieving excellence.
Mhm.
And I had it happen where I broke up with somebody who I had in my frame for a long time, and I finally couldn't do it anymore. And she started coming out of pocket anyway. And it was just like I could have stuck around and drew everything back in. And I just went, I'm not. And as soon as and I was living at the time, I was struggling in my real estate business and struggling in different areas because of all this energy I had to put into this relationship. And as soon as I left that relationship, it was like in a week, I had some closings, I had money in my bank account, and it went from like just paying bills and being in a negative to being in
Mhm.
a surplus in like a week and a half. Couldn't believe how much, and I had lied to myself. I had done the mental gymnastics we all do, thinking, well, I'm putting in the hours, putting in the time. No, I was not putting in the mental energy to take myself to where I needed to go, because I was wasting it in this relationship that was toxic to me. And
Yeah.
that's what men will do. And they'll do it with friends, they'll do it with family, they'll do it with girlfriends. They'll do it with jobs that give them a sense of security, but it sucks up so much of their mental energy and time that they can't now break away from that. So that's the prison they get caught into, right? And you could just apply it to so many things. And then here's the other part why inner game is so important. they get to where they want. They've gotten rid of some of those toxic things that would, prevent them from doing stuff. And then what happens is they don't really truly believe they deserve it.
Oof.
And they don't even know it. It's just deep down in there. They haven't gotten rid of those old beliefs that says, you're never really going to be a millionaire. So whatever, and then whatever, things that we say to ourselves, to feel okay with that, and then you get a million, get $1 million, you become that millionaire. And now that voice is still in there and you don't even know it. And it starts to cause you to do things in old patterns. You just developed all of these millionaire behaviors, beliefs, and habits, but you don't really believe it. And so you fall into old patterns. And then you see that a guy, millionaire gets in a fight at some, like you see it with rappers and stuff, pulls a gun out at a nightclub, and now he's doing time. What the fuck is wrong with you? You got a multi-million-dollar empire, and you've built up this music career as a music personality, this rapper guy, whatever, and you're pulling a gun that's an unregistered gun out in a club. What? And begin yourself put in prison and losing your shit. Are you kidding me, right? Or how about these people, like they go bankrupt, like the MC Hammers of the world, right? Like, you know what I mean? The guy has got this empire and now he's like bankrupt. He's trying to figure it out. It's like they didn't believe on the inside that they could have this, so they self-sabotage. They lacked the inner work. And I would even say that they don't know who they are, because there's that saying, when you look into the abyss looks back into you. So when a guy, let's say, is being a rapper, okay, and he doesn't really have that identity that's strong, what does he become? He becomes his music lyrics. He becomes this character, and everybody thinks he's a character. They reflect it back to him. He thinks I'm this guy, and I'm invincible because I'm so gangster, and now he's doing time. You see what I mean? The objective reality did not match the mental models that he had, because he didn't know who the hell he was.
And there's I'm gonna read this real quick. Got him, Himmel, 499 super chat. If you get no girls at all like me, you take what you can get. That's why I'm at the gym 6 days a week and in a deficit. Love you, MLD. Well, if you're not getting girls, don't give advice on getting girls, big guy. The black chat says Paul's talking about me, the feeling of not deserving, I think it means deserving. I'm not deserving the good things in life. And no, it's not only you, guy. Look, this guy says it too. J20 agrees. I talked about it earlier this week on Tuesday, how I had the toxic shame from the terrible childhood that I had with my aunt constantly saying, you are a devil, you're like a demon possessed little kid, you're a piece of shit, you're bad, you're never good enough. So I would be knocking out my gym, knocking out my macros, have all of the knowledge to know I gotta eat this many protein, I gotta eat this many calories, I know I need to do this. But self-sabotaging, eating an entire pizza, eating Butterfingers, eating Snickers, eating Kit Kats, like, intentionally knowing I should not be doing this, but being driven by some like unseen shadow-like force, which is the subconscious bad programs in your mind, to self-sabotage. And I see it happen all the time. Like I said, one of my favorite examples is like when you're dating a girl and everything's going good, but she feels like she's not good enough. She feels like she's a piece of shit. She will fucking fuck the relationship up because she's not used to being loved. She's not used to being in a healthy, happy relationship. And so she will look for reasons to fuck the relationship up, or she will like see them there or whatever
be
the case
hypersensitive too. That's another thing. Like you're never going to be perfect, and maybe you do something or you screw something up, and now she's way off the deep end in anxiety, and because she doesn't think she can keep you, and it hit, your, let's say, thing you did hits that mental model for her that I'm not good enough, or I need to be like this. Oh, you run into this all the time with Western women. I need to be a strong, independent woman who commands this and demands that, or else I'm not worthy. And then she gets in a relationship that challenges that. And then she realizes, like, in order to be with a man like this, I have to be submissive. And I can't just be this person. And she doesn't realize the model that there's strength in femininity. There's
Yes.
strength actually in submissiveness. There's so
Dude,
much
I'll do
strength in
whatever
that.
for a feminine girl. I'm like,
I
you want
know.
diamonds? You want a fucking car?
I know. I
You want a
swear.
car with diamonds inside of it? I could do it. I could work really
Yeah.
hard, but they don't
Yeah.
get it. Like
No,
they love
they don't get it.
masculinity, but they don't get like, hey,
No.
like we love femininity, and that's
Right.
why when I like, there's certain bitches I hate. Right, I'm not perfect, but when I see when I see them like believing this strong independent woman narrative, I'm like, oh man, you're gonna fuck your life up, like
Yeah.
because
No, they do.
it's serious, and these chicks are broken,
They are.
and
Yep.
deeply flawed, and a lot of them are beyond saving because they're just constantly, super, super, super indoctrinated, super brainwashed,
Right.
and it's like, like every girl that comes into my life that I date, like they come out a better person, right? And they learn the power of femininity. They learn the power of being a woman, being a nurturing individual. And women, I think nowadays, they're just in, and it's happening on a global scale as well, because Japanese girls are falling victim to this shit.
Oh
Korean
yeah.
girls, Chinese
Mhm.
girls, they're falling victim to this, like, oh, just be a career woman and be independent and like
Yeah, they're told
be a
their
man.
value is to be a better man than men.
Yeah.
That's what their value. They think their value is that, and actually, no, that makes them less valuable to men. I
Mhm.
mean, that makes them less. I mean, they're not even valuable to themselves. They don't even know themselves. Again, they don't. They don't know who they are. They're
Mhm.
just influenced,
Yeah.
right? They're just like we were before we saw this stuff.
Mhm.
They were and they are. They're just being influenced. They don't really know who they are, and they think that this is who they are and what that they would want. And to move outside of that brings them anxiety, makes them feel this tension inside themselves, because if I'm not controlling the relationship, if I'm not, if we're not 50-50, you know
Ugh.
what I mean, in our decisions, blah, blah, then I'm being disrespected somehow,
If
and they
you're
can't get
doing
rid of
it,
that shit.
I have to be doing it too. Like,
Yeah.
well, you're doing this, so why can't I do this? It's like, no, bitch. First of all, you were lost before you came to me. So you really just need to chill the fuck out and let me guide you, because let's take a look at your history. Let's take a look at where you were before me, and let's take a look at where you are after me, right? Because it's like I said, bro, for you guys, I know there's like a lot of like female angst out there. These guys feel like, a little like female hatred, right? They're like some dudes like hate chicks and like from a
Yeah,
broken,
it's too
bitter
bad.
spot. I
Right.
mean, just know that they're gonna get theirs as well, because they're not doing it right.
No, no, I'm glad I'm a man. We'll put it
Me
like that.
too.
I
Fuck
mean,
yeah.
like women have a rough time, man. It's like it's not that guys don't, but guys, women have the rough time that women have is they're up against a clock in ways that we're just not.
Hmm.
Like there's no shortage of women that I could get in new relationships I could start at 44.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There is no, I could, my options are more today than they
Yeah.
were when I was 21, 20,
Yeah.
24.
Oh yeah.
Whereas for a woman, once she starts to get in her late 20s, those options start to go down. And depending on how she's lived her life up to that point, somewhere between 30 and 35, her options now are much less and it's harder. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I've actually coached women to success. In fact, I
Yeah.
have one on later with my first client. It's really
Mhm.
funny because I was negative. People might think I am about women because of my audience is generally men and
Yeah.
they don't get it. But my first client was actually a woman,
Mm.
and she's killing it. As far as things as she's killing it, she's doing
Mm.
really well, and she was a single mom. At the time when she was actually in a relationship with her husband, had to end in a divorce. It wasn't a good situation. And she was wrapped up in some toxic relationships, got
Yeah.
out of those, made herself, did what most women don't do when they're in their 40s with kids, made herself valuable and and made herself hot and figured out what men would actually want, because there's such a shortage of women out there doing that who are hot and single with no kids, when she just by doing that, she was able to get remarried and have a decent relationship, and I don't, we don't advise men to choose single moms because usually it's a recipe for disaster. But this is one of these situations where she, up against all odds, she made it work for herself
Yeah.
because she changed her mental models and did the work. And, but that's a very rare circumstance. She's a fitness personality, for God's sakes. Most women past the age of 35, they're not in that kind of shape. They don't know how to make a man happy. They don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And they're not, the advice that's out there for them is terrible. So we have a much better, easier time. We can screw up a bit and recover and do much better, later. We have time where they don't have time. So I have compassion for that with the women you deal with. These guys who hate women that are watching our stuff, man, you have a little less hate because really, they're up against a lot,
No, dude, that's like I said, like these girls, like the one thing is like if I were to, if I go through a breakup or like a girl leaves or whatever, I know I'm like, well, like, the side of you that wants to get even, like, well, she's gonna ruin her life now. So, you know, because they're just like I said, once they leave the guidance of a man and they didn't have their shit together before, they're just gonna regress back to who they were before you. Unless there's like some lasting change there.
Right.
But I think that going back to the inner game stuff, this is so important for guys to get your inner shit fixed because you as a man, you have to lead the relationship. And if this isn't right, then none of this on the outside is going to be right. It's all like you are going to fail. It is inevitable.
Yeah.
Because if your inner world's fucked up, your outer world's going to be fucked up. And it's the same thing with the chicks, right? Because a lot of these girls, man, yeah, I can't tell you how many times women have like, I've been, dating girls and they've been laying in my bed and confessing me to like their deepest, darkest fucking mental shit. And they're just like, I don't know how to heal myself. I don't know how to get better. I've taught my sister lately has been like, she just turned 34 and she bought into the whole girl boss narrative, man. Even the other day we were talking and she's like, well, why don't fucking guys like me? She's like, I have 2 houses. I'm educated. I'm the number 2 salesman in my salesperson in my company. And I was, I told her I'm going to use her as an example as well. So she's cool with this, but I was like, Britt, you are 34 and fat. That's all guys see.
Right.
And they don't get it.
That's right.
And to top it off, because we're working with her, getting her shit sorted out as well.
Yeah.
She was crying with me on the phone the other day. And she's like, all I want to do is have kids, stay home and bake pies for them and be a mother. And she's like, I feel like every fucking day my window to being a mother is getting smaller and
she's
smaller
right.
and smaller. And she is.
She's right.
And
doesn't mean she's hopeless, but that she's right though, and she needs to start fucking yesterday. Excuse me, YouTube. Start yesterday.
Okay, it's my channel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. We're already banned anyway.
Nobody's watching.
YouTube doesn't like it. That's right. But yeah, I mean, but to start yesterday on what does a guy want out of a woman who he would provide to stay home and take care of kids and be that kind of a partner. He wants her to be good looking, hot, with a good sense of values, makes him feel good, agreeable, not dominant, feminine, isn't a detriment to his life, and has skills to be an asset to his life, like, managing a house, not spending and wasting money, cooking a good meal, raising kids, all of those things. Start working on those deficits because she should have been working on them when she was 18 years old. Really. They don't have time. And that's where they used to be told, because it fit the social paradigm, back to corporations, it fit the societal structure that made people money, to put them in a tradcon, traditional conservative environment where girls were taught those skills and the nuclear family was valued. But now it doesn't fit with global corporations. Now it doesn't fit that model anymore. So what do? They push people away from the nuclear family, and women are being told things that are literally designed to destroy them. But it'll be expensive though, and they'll keep throwing money at the markets, and that's why it's done that way. That's why that programming is there, unfortunately.
and my sister is like deeply, deeply depressed. She told me I'm gonna have her on the show in March.
Dang.
Um,
Wow.
but
That's pretty
she's
big.
like, yeah, well, she's gonna be working with she has a call with Ryan and soon, and she's gonna get through the shit because we
Good.
both came from the shit. But she bought into it, you know. And when she was in her 20s, she was sexy, she was good looking, she was a model in Miami. And I
Yeah.
remember, I specifically remember like running circles around these dudes and treating men like shit.
Yeah.
And I told her, of course, you know, at that time I was 26. You know, I'm brainwashing myself with fucking MK Ultra videos in my living room. Just like, what's this psycho doing? You know, fast forward 10 years later,
Yeah.
7-figure business here. She's
Mhm.
cripplingly depressed.
Yeah.
She told me she's a high functioning fucking depressed person, and she, you know, she cried with me on the phone the other day. It's been a couple days in a row, but I'm helping her and I'm gonna help her out, and she's gonna get better. But she is like, she is awake to the reality. Like, I was fucking conned.
Mhm.
And the terrible thing about was when you realize that shit, it's like you don't get the time back. You're 34, and that's as young as you're gonna get with this new realization. And so she knows she has a lot of fucking work to do, and she knows that the deck is stacked against her, and she has a high notch count. She did that thing. I said, you know, honestly, like, you you did a lot of like permanent damage to yourself as well by letting that happen. And you have a uphill battle. But I said the alternative is giving up and being depressed and eventually fucking, you know, killing yourself with drugs and alcohol and shit, which we're
Right.
not going to let you do. But
Right.
it's so important because when you have these kind of things inside you as a human in general, just as a human, you don't realize you're being brainwashed, you don't realize you're being influenced. Like, these corporations, right? Like, it cracks me up, right? When I see all these people like, oh, you know, hashtag me too, hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag whatever thing is. It's like, you think you're so original, you think these thoughts come from something.
Yeah.
These thoughts came from an alpha point, and that alpha point is some corporation or
Yep.
government with your best interests at the very fucking bottom of their fucking list.
Exactly. Yep. Their interests for you are only as far as you benefit them.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's it, you know. And they'll keep you going just enough to benefit them. And once that benefit's over with, I mean, that then it's over with. And if you don't know who you are, you this is where women find themselves. They
Mhm.
find themselves confused at 40, and they don't even know what they're like, they don't even know why they're confused. Like,
Yeah.
they're divorced, you know, they try to go on the eat, pray, love tour. You know, maybe they banged a busboy in Greece or whatever, and they bragged to their friends, did a couple things, and now they're alone, out of shape, with a good job though, and strong independent values, you know, drinking a box of wine on a Friday night and bitching about men and not sure, you know, confused. And instead of being vulnerable and being upset about it and allowing themselves to feel that and question their own choices and say, what can I do? What different choices can I make? They put on a strong exterior, they put on more armor and defenses, they become bitchier, and they try to control men in the dating market to shield how broken that they really feel on the inside. And they just say,
Mhm.
you see it everywhere. And it's sad. You know,
Yeah.
whenever I see that strong, independent, bitchy woman acting like a tool bag to a man who's simping around for her, I feel bad for the guy, but I feel bad for her because I know how
Mhm.
miserable and alone she really is. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah.
And those girls that are miserable and alone, they don't even realize, but
No, they have
they
no idea.
they also see their girlfriends who are actually not miserable and alone, and what do? They start swiping away at their relationships, start
Oh,
fucking,
sure.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they don't want to be alone by themselves. It's just human nature. They're not even
No,
aware that they're
I
doing
don't
it.
know.
But you know, if you guys are liking this, I'm gonna tell you, this level of conversation, you can join us by going to attend Paul's speech here on March 3rd, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Inner Game Healing Summit, which is happening on February 24th. We really see you guys in the chat, you know, participating with us and, you know, moving along. Paul will also be an affiliate. So if you want to support Paul, you can also go through his information, his link, his email list.
Oh, thanks, man.
Intergame, yeah. Emails go right here. Go to innergamehealing.com, put your email address in here, and then click get on the waiting list, because on February 24th, enrollment starts, 5 days of enrollment, and then March 1st, we're jumping right into it. You're going to get a full course talking about how to implement daily actions and daily mental thinking patterns for you to actually get to wherever you want to be in life. We're going to show you how to structure your mind, how to structure your belief system to get exactly what you want. Then you get access to the 5 days of webinars with the schedule I just showed you previously. In addition to that, you get access to a year-long Telegram chat where me and my team of experts, Paul included, will be helping you literally until next year. The chat will be closed on December 31st, 2022. Plenty of time to get yourself sorted out. Go to this website here, innergamehealing.com, and literally read all this stuff. This isn't some copy pasta shit we put together. Me and another guy who is a hypnotherapy expert, as well as a guy who has come from the red pill background, knows everything. We sat down and we wrote all of this stuff out because it actually makes sense. It's like almost like a low key, like a psychological report, but read it. We wrote it in a very easy way that is digestible, but it can make sense to you. Go to innergamehealing.com, read it. And once it makes sense to you, once you think, I think this can be beneficial to me, I really think that this is something that I can implement in my life and make 2022 the best year of my life, put your email address right here. It's completely free. Get on the waiting list. There's 168 plus people on the waiting list right now. I've only started this promotion 10 days ago. No, not even. It's 9 days ago I started this. I haven't even done the full 45-day promotion that I usually do. There seems to be a massive need for this stuff. Paul and I are testimonies of what you can become if you implement these lifestyles, because Paul and I both came from fucking absolutely nothing. And we're both up in the top, single digit percentiles of men in multiple aspects of life. We really give a shit about you guys. We really care. And that's why we're doing this. So you can find Paul at apexmindset.net. I totally recommend all his services. And you can find him on Apex Mindset on YouTube. Until then, we'll be back tomorrow for free consultation Friday. And we'll catch you.